There's a persistent story online about tunnels supposedly hidden beneath the mountains of Idaho, tunnels some retellings claim the Nez Perce knew about long before any American settler arrived. Some versions describe ancient passageways. Some describe warnings passed down through generations. Some claim entire valleys were avoided because of what tribal elders reportedly said about what lay underground. Before we go any further, here's the honest starting point for this investigation. Much of what circulates under the label Nez Perce legend cannot be traced to any documented tribal source at all. So what's actually real here? And what happens to a nation's true, remarkable history when it gets buried beneath a story that was never really theirs to begin with? This is a story about separating fact from fabrication, and about a people whose real history deserves to be told with the accuracy it has earned. Let's start with the land itself, because Idaho's mountain geology is genuinely fascinating without needing any invented mystery attached to it. The territory historically associated with the Nez Perce, or Nimiipuu as they call themselves, spans a vast, dramatic landscape across what is now north-central Idaho, along with portions of Oregon and Washington. This region includes Hell's Canyon, the deepest river gorge in North America, along with the rugged peaks of the Bitterroot and Seven Devils mountain ranges. The geology here is genuinely complex, shaped volcanic activity, ancient flood basalts, and millions of years carved by the Snake and Clearwater rivers. This landscape does contain caves and lava tubes, particularly in areas by the volcanic activity that produced much of the Snake River Plain, including confirmed geological features at sites like Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve, located within the broader region historically connected to Nez Perce territory and neighboring nations. These are genuine, well-documented geological formations, studied extensively by geologists for their volcanic history. The Nimiipuu have lived in this region for a documented, extraordinarily long time. Archaeological evidence, along with the Nez Perce's own oral tradition, places their presence in this homeland for well over 10,000 years, making their connection to this specific landscape one of the longest documented human relationships with a single region anywhere in North America. This is not a people who passed briefly through this territory. This is a nation whose identity, language, and culture developed in direct relationship with these exact mountains, rivers, and canyons across an almost unimaginable span of time. It's essential to state this plainly and with real respect. The Nez Perce Tribe is a federally recognized, living sovereign nation today, headquartered in Lapwai, Idaho, with a well-documented history that includes extraordinary cultural achievement and profound, well-recorded hardship, including the forced removal and the harrowing 1887 flight of Chief Joseph and roughly 750 Nez men, women, and children, pursued by the United States Army across more than 100 miles before surrender just short of the Canadian border. This is real, documented, deeply significant American history, and it deserves to be understood on its own terms, not treated as a vague backdrop for an invented tunnel legend. So where does the specific idea of secret tunnels the Nez Perce supposedly knew about actually come from? This is where responsible investigation requires genuine caution, because the sourcing here is considerably thinner than popular online retellings suggest. A significant amount of what circulates about hidden tunnels backed not to any documented Nez Perce source, but to a broader category of American frontier and later internet-era folklore involving claims of secret underground networks, often connected loosely and without verification to vague Indian legend framing, a pattern that has appeared repeatedly across many different regions of the country, attached to many different indigenous nations, almost always without specific, citable tribal sourcing. This pattern deserves direct, honest naming. When a story attributes supernatural or mysterious underground knowledge to the Nez Perce or Native American legend broadly, without citing any specific elder, any specific documented account, or any actual collaboration with the Nez Perce tribe itself, that absence of sourcing should raise real skepticism. It doesn't necessarily reflect malicious intent. Often it reflects generations of casual, uncritical retelling, stories that started somewhere vague and picked up borrowed authority with each retelling. But the effect is the same regardless of intent. A real nation's actual, well-documented history gets pushed aside in favor of a vague, unverifiable, more marketable mystery. That doesn't mean Nez Perce oral tradition doesn't include genuine teachings about specific places requiring respect or caution. Indigenous oral traditions across America, including documented traditions among the Nimiipuu themselves, do include real, culturally significant knowledge-specific sites tied to creation stories, historical events, and spiritual practice developed across their documented 10,000-year presence in this landscape. But the specific sensationalized, hidden tunnel network version of this story, as it circulates online today, generally cannot be traced to any specific documented Nez Perce source and appears to owe far more to generic American conspiracy and legend convention than to authentic tribal testimony. So let's actually examine what's documented carefully and see where genuine evidence leads. Geological and archaeological survey work throughout north-central Idaho connected to Nez Perce National Historical Park, which the National Park Service manages in ongoing consultation with the Nez Perce Tribe, has confirmed extensive evidence of indigenous habitation, including documented rock shelters and cave sites for practical purposes consistent with the seasonal, resource-based lifeways well established among plateau peoples generally. Confirmed archaeological sites throughout the region have yielded stone tools, evidence of fishing and hunting camps, and material culture consistent with many thousands of years of continuous habitation. This is where the real story becomes genuinely remarkable without needing any invented tunnel network at all. The Nez Perce developed the most sophisticated horse cultures on the entire continent following the introduction of horses in the early 18th century, and their historical territory encompassed an extraordinarily wide and well-managed seasonal range, from salmon fishing along the Clearwater and Snake Rivers to hunting grounds extending as far as the Buffalo Plains of present-day Montana. Their documented history includes complex political organization, sophisticated ecological knowledge, and in 1877 flight, a level of strategic and logistical coordination across incredibly difficult terrain that military historians continue to study today. When we ask what the Nez Perce specifically knew about caves or geological features in this landscape, the honest, historically grounded answer requires genuine humility from outside observers. Specific cultural or spiritual knowledge about particular sites, where it exists, belongs to the Nez Perce tribe and is properly interpreted by their own cultural authorities and community members today, not speculated upon or dramatized by outside documentarians looking for an engaging hook. If you appreciate history told with real care, even when that means gently correcting a popular but poorly sourced legend, this channel exists exactly for that kind of investigation. Subscribe now, because tracing where this specific tunnel story actually originated leads somewhere considerably more revealing than the legend itself ever promised to be. So let's talk directly about the documented origins of this hidden tunnel folklore, because tracing it honestly genuinely matters here. A considerable amount of American secret underground folklore, attached loosely to various indigenous nations across many different states, appears to trace back to a specific strand of early to mid-20th century pseudo-archaeological writing and treasure hunting culture, the same broader pattern responsible for other unsubstantiated lost civilization stories we've examined in past investigations. These narratives frequently borrowed the general concept of indigenous geography, real and well documented in many nations, actual traditions, and repackaged it into a considerably more sensational and considerably less accurate story about hidden physical networks, treasure, or ancient non-indigenous civilizations. No credible academic institution or the Nez Perce Tribe's own cultural and historical resources have confirmed any documented tradition describing hidden tunnel networks beneath Idaho as popularly depicted online. The Nez Perce Tribes and cultural information channels like the tribe's official resources, and in careful partnership with institutions like Nez Perce Historical Park, focuses appropriately on their extensively documented their 10,000-year presence in this homeland, their sophisticated culture, and their treaty history with the United States government, including the significantly reduced 63 treaty that many Nez Perce never recognized as legitimate, and the profound, well-documented events of 1877. There's also unglamorous explanation for why parts of Idaho's genuinely extensive volcanic cave systems remain locally mysterious and underexplored. Much of this terrain, particularly the lava tube systems across the Snake River Plain, is remote, geologically hazardous, and has simply never been prioritized for exhaustive survey outside of specifically protected and studied areas like craters of the Moon. That's a genuine, if far less dramatic, explanation for persistent local mystery. There's a connection worth drawing carefully here between two entirely separate threads of evidence without overstating what either one proves. On one side, we have extensively confirmed, professionally documented evidence of Nez presence and land use across this Idaho landscape, spanning over 10,000 years, along with genuine, well-studied volcanic geology producing real caves and lava tubes throughout the region. On the other side, we have a widely circulated but unverifiable hidden tunnel legend, loosely attributed to Nez Perce tradition without any documented tribal source, that more accurately traces to broader, unrelated archaeological folklore patterns across many parts of the country. These threads are not the same story, and combining them as much popular content does a genuine disservice to the real, extraordinary, well-documented Nez Perce history that actually exists. But taken honestly and separately, they point towards something true. This Idaho landscape holds a genuinely deep, remarkable human history, one considerably more compelling, documented form than any invented underground network has ever managed to be. So where does this investigation actually leave us? The most responsible conclusion available, based on everything genuinely verifiable, is this: the popular hidden tunnels beneath Idaho legend, as it circulates online and is loosely attributed to Nez Perce tradition, cannot be traced to any documented tribal source, and is better understood as a variant of the broader American pseudo-archaeological folklore than as authentic Nimiipuu oral history. What is genuinely, powerfully true is considerably more significant than the legend itself. The Nez Perce people stewarded this exact Idaho landscape for well over 10,000 documented years, developing sophisticated cultural, ecological, and political systems, enduring profound historical hardship, including forced displacement, and maintaining their identity and sovereignty as a nation into the present day. Their real history, extensively documented and available through their own tribal resources and institutions like Nez Perce National Historical Park, doesn't require an invented tunnel network to be worth learning about carefully. Maybe the real question this investigation raises isn't what's hidden beneath those Idaho mountains. Maybe it's this: how many times has a genuinely remarkable, well-documented Indigenous history been quietly set aside in favor of a vaguer, more sensational story, simply because the sensational version required less actual research to tell? Idaho's mountains and canyons don't need an invented underground mystery to be worth exploring and understanding. The real story, 10,000 years of documented human presence, cultural achievement, and resilience, was always the more remarkable one, and it deserves to be told with the depth and accuracy it has genuinely earned. What do you think it says about how we engage with history when a fabricated legend can spread further and faster than the real, well-documented story sitting right beside it? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you appreciate history told honestly, even when that means setting aside a popular myth, go ahead and subscribe for more carefully researched deep dives into the past.